All right. Hey, well, happy Wednesday, team. Welcome to the PMI Western Idaho chapter September Lunch and Learn. This is Brian Russell. I'm your facilitator for today. I hope you all had a fantastic and a safe summer. A reminder that after today's session, an email will be sent with a recording and instructions on how to claim your 1 hour of PDU. So be looking for that email coming out. Before we get started today, let me remind you of an event that's coming up on the evening of September 22nd. It's the chapter's 6th annual career panel. This event aims to provide a fresh perspective on professional development, career trends, and just the basic do's and don'ts of career management. You will hear from a set of local industry leaders and specialists at this event. You can visit the PMI chapter's website to register for the event if that sounds like something you'd like to participate in. It is virtual again this year. So some logistics for today. So during the lunch and learn session, all of the attendees, the audio is muted. Therefore, we ask you to use the Q&A session on the right-hand menu to ask questions or give feedback to Makenzie. During Makenzie's presentation, there are going to be several points where she'll be asking a question of the audience. So please use the Q&A. We want to have this be a robust discussion as well. So use that Q&A to provide your feedback. There is a poll near the end of the presentation. And if you look in that right-hand menu, there's a polls section. So when we get to that part of the presentation, Makenzie will point that out for you to take the poll. So to start off with today, so this fall we do have planned some interesting subjects, but today we're going to start out with taking care of yourself. Today's guest presenter is Makenzie Ellsworth. Makenzie is a program coordinator with St. Luke's Health System and is a public health professional with a demonstrated history in community health education and outreach to the nonprofit industries. She's skilled in public speaking, health promotion, and educating diverse populations. Makenzie also trains and mentors volunteers. So with that, let's welcome Makenzie to our September Lunch and Learn. Makenzie, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Thank you for the nice introduction. Everyone, hello. My name is Makenzie, but you're more than welcome to refer to me as Mac. As Brian mentioned, I work full-time at St. Luke's as a program coordinator, where I get to implement the well-being programs for employees. And I have to say, it's a very interesting time in healthcare, and we're seeing such a need for people to value their self-care. And so the motto you'll hear from me today is self-care is healthcare. And we can only go so long trying to live life with an empty cup that we can't refill. So today I'm honored to be here. My master's is in public health, so I love the bird's eye view of health, but I also love that individualized approach to health as a health coach to help people individually too. So with that said, our learning objective today is to apply evidence-based self-care strategies to promote your resiliency and manage personal, professional, and situational stress. I want this to be as interactive and engaging as possible. So there's going to be lots of questions, as Brian mentioned, where you can just type in the chat box. It's nothing serious. Just type away and give me some feedback. I love interaction. I love that in-person vibe. And so we're going to make this as in-person-like as we can. You're lucky because when I work with nurses, I call them out by name, but I won't do that to you today. So on our agenda, we're going to build a wellness foundation from where you can grow and thrive. So that's going to entail creating a well-being vision. We're going to talk about strategies for optimizing your overall well-being and provide tools for implementing self-care into your current lifestyle, and then give you an idea of how to complete a purpose statement. And just remember that, wellness is not a destination, but a behavior we can do every single day to sustain our overall level of health. So Keep in mind too, wellness is not merely the absence of disease, dis-ease, if that makes sense, but a dynamic process of becoming aware and making choices for a healthy and fulfilling life. So 80% of U.S. healthcare is tied to chronic lifestyle diseases, and many of these chronic illnesses are preventable and reversible. So to kick us off, we're going to do a guided imagery on well-being. And this can be a little bit new to some folks and maybe not so new to others, but we're going to take a few minutes. I'm going to lead you through a guided imagery on basically it gives you time to reflect back on what your well-being vision is. So a well-being vision is a compelling description of your best self. It's going to define what you truly want in life and how you live when you're at your best. And it's also going to include behaviors, actions, strengths, feelings, values, and even relationships and what they entail. So it should give you confidence and energy. And sometimes it helps to think about a well-being vision in a way of, if you could wave a magic wand and take away all of your challenges right now, what would your life look like? What would your ideal life look like? And what would you be doing? So as I read through this guided imagery, I want you to think about what you would be doing, how you would look and feel, and paint that ideal vision for yourself. And I think it's always nice to have an example. So I'm going to read my health vision to you, so you kind of have an idea of what it can entail. And again, this is just to get you started. So Mac's health vision. I envision having a vibrant marriage. I am a successful health coach and am achieving my passion to inspire others to live their optimal life. While my career is thriving, I also still have the energy and time to put 100% into my friends, family, mentorship, and hobbies. I feel satisfied because I have a zest for life and a peace within me that knows I am on the right path. So take a moment to just get comfortable. I'm going to start this guided imagery. It takes a few minutes, so just be patient, but it really does guide you through a nice vision here. So as we begin, get into a comfortable position with both of your feet planted on the floor and your hands resting in your lap or along your sides, or really in whatever position is comfortable for you. Then allowing your eyes to close or cast down, I want you to begin to focus your awareness on your breath. Breathing in and breathing out slowly and comfortably. Breathing in and breathing out easily and effortlessly. With each breath becoming more and more relaxed, letting go of any outside sounds, just allow yourself to go deeper inside. A reminder of how good it is to leave the noise and stress of the outside world and journey into the quiet and peace of your own inner world. And as you sink deeper down into the quiet and ease, imagine that your feet are firmly or like a tree with roots extending into the earth. In this moment, feeling your roots extending into the floor so that no matter where you go on this journey, you will feel solidly connected. From this relaxed and comfortable place, imagine yourself walking into a natural setting and finding a path. Head to the path and begin to follow the path. As you are slowly walking along the path, take time to notice what is around you. What time of year is it? What season is it? What details do you notice in the space around you? What's the temperature of the air? As you continue to walk along the path, notice the colors, shapes, textures of the objects around you. Also, noticing the sounds along this path, it is primarily quiet with just the sounds of your steps, or perhaps you hear the sounds in this environment. As you walk, being aware of what's around you and with you along this path, notice the feeling of the path beneath your feet. Feel free to pause along the way, maybe even sitting down as you need to, on benches, whatever's around, and then continue as you are ready. Soon you notice you are coming to a beautiful gate just in front of you along the path, and next to the gate is a basket. When you reach the gate, feel free to leave anything in this basket that you may not be serving you. Now, unlatch that gate and step through the threshold into a place and a time that is 2 to 3 years into your future. This is where your future self lives. This place looks different from where you just came, and yet it is somehow familiar. Continue walking along the path until you come to the dwelling of your future self. As you come closer, notice your future self is waiting for you, waiting to talk to you. Greeting your future self, notice how she or he greets you in return, welcoming you to this time and place in the future. Notice what it feels like to be with him or her, this future self that lives a life of optimal health and well-being. Soak in the environment around you, noticing colors, texture, temperature, smells, as he or she invites you to a comfortable place for a conversation. Now is your opportunity to ask questions of your future self. Perhaps you may want to ask, what goals and actions will I need to set in order to live a life of optimal health? What support do I need? Who do I need to be right now in order to move forward? Or ask your future self anything that feels right to you. Take a moment and listen to the response. Before you leave, ask your future self last 2 questions and listen to the response. First, ask your future self, what stands out most in your memory of the last few years? Now ask, what do I need to be most aware of to get me from where I am now to where you are? Bring this visit with your future self to a close, thanking him or her for being here with you today and sharing their wisdom. Finding your way back to the path, walking along until you come to the gate. Take a deep breath and step through the opening in the gate to this time, to the environment where you began. Continue walking along this path, now connecting with your footsteps and your breath. In a moment, I'm going to count from 3 to 1. At the count of 1, you will be refreshed and alert, as if you've had the perfect amount of rest, knowing you can remember everything you wish of this inner journey. When you open your eyes, remain silent, without judging. 3, coming back to the present time, becoming more alert and refreshed. 2, stretching your body, feeling the ground beneath you. And 1, eyes open, refreshed and alert. I'll give you a second to kind of come out of that nice guided imagery. It's so tough to do that for some people because many times we like to be human doings versus human beings. And when we can step away and reflect on the daily and get away from that dailiness of life where we're just go, 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 and then we take a moment and we're like, why am I even doing this, right? We have those moments, and if we can just take some time, just like you just did, so bravo, you can start asking yourself those nice questions. A pro tip I have for you if you're struggling in life and what you really want is just to grab a Post-it note and write onto that Post-it note, what do I really want? And post that on your fridge so you can look at it every day you go to your fridge, and you can start asking yourself that question because, like I mentioned, we get so caught up in that dailiness of life, we forget to ask ourselves those important questions. This next slide is our WellBeing Will that we use at St. Luke's. And this is really a multifaceted approach or tool we use to ensure that we're meeting all areas of health of our employees. And I'm not going to dive into it too much, but I just want you to know all areas of our health are interconnected. And when we focus too much on one area of our health, other areas suffer. So at the middle, you'll notice the U, and then around that self-care and safety. And then I want you to look at this as a whole, as a tire or a wheel. So in the middle is you. You are your hub, right? And without that self-care and safety, the whole hub, that whole tire will fall apart, okay? So it's important that we focus on all areas of our health versus just one or the other. The first area of health I want to focus on is your physical health. So go ahead and just type in that Q&A so Brian can give me some feedback. What does physical health mean to you? And then, of course, we're going to be thinking about our body as that engine that powers your well-being. So, Brian, if you get any feedback, let me know.
Yeah, will do. So on your right-hand side menu, there is a Q&A feature in Hopin. So just jump into that. There's a button at the bottom to ask a question. Put your feedback in there, and then I'll relay it on to Makenzie. Answering the question, what does physical health mean to you? Thank you, Cheryl. Able to walk, jog at least 3 times a week or more.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that. Yeah. Sometimes physical health can look really broad and intimidating, but it really doesn't have to be. Our physical health is our ability to incorporate knowledge about nutrition, hydration, exercise, movement, sleep, and rest into our daily routine. So it can really look differently for everyone. The first piece of physical health we're going to talk about is nutrition. So I'm curious, what foods love you back and energize you? I'm not talking about the foods that you just love and then tend to get you groggy and tired. What foods do you love that really give you that pep in your step? And go ahead and type them in the Q&A. And while you guys are typing, I want to just explain that there really is a bi-directional relationship between our food choices and our moods. So sometimes our mood is going to dictate whether or not we want healthy food, comfort food, or junk food. On the other end, when we choose a certain food, it can dictate how we feel. So for example, if you're constantly anxious and nervous because of all the caffeine you're drinking throughout the day, you can see that relationship, right? It's also, you can tend to notice how you feel in an hour after takeout food, maybe versus a homemade dish or stir fry with lots of veggies. So it's important to understand that relationship between our brain and our gut. That's becoming much more common knowledge than it used to be. But it's important to know that our mood can impact our food choices. So how often have you struggled with your digestion after you've experienced a lot of anxiety, right? When you're just really anxious, you're nervous, typically our digestion is impacted a great deal. And I'll get into that a little bit more here soon. On another note, that previous slide mentioned our body is really that engine that fuels us, right? So think about if you were to go buy a Ferrari or the most beautiful car in the world, what type of gas are you going to put into that car, right? You're not going to go fill it up with the worst gas at the gas station. You're going to fuel it with the best gas possible, so you don't have to service it as much and or put in the cost for repairs, right? So I want you to think of your body as a Ferrari. It's that thing that's going to run the most effectively if you put in it what it needs. I personally experienced this. I was in a car accident when I was 15. I've since been a T3 paraplegic, and our bodies love bouncing back. And it was at this point in my life that I realized how powerful our bodies are and how much our bodies love us. Our bodies want to thrive. They truly do. And if we put the foods and energy it needs into it, you are going to surpass anything that you ever imagined. I know I personally have and have seen many others do the same thing. And so sometimes it's just focusing on asking the right questions. What foods love me back versus saying, oh, I need to eat this food because it's healthy. Think about what food's going to really love me back today and give me that energy I need to get through this project.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
So we've gotten some great feedback on that prior question about feeling healthy. So being able to keep up with all the activities my family wants to do, enough energy to get through the day, feeling strong, can climb stairs without breathing hard, not tired at all except at bedtime, being a healthy weight and well hydrated, able to disconnect in order to re-energize the body. And then on the food question, Julia, Tammy provided some feedback. So fresh seasonal fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean protein, vegetables. Again, lean protein, fresh fruits and veggies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so some good feedback from the team.
Yeah, those were fantastic. And those are the types of responses that get you to your true why for wanting to be healthy, right? We are in such a weight loss hustle culture where a lot of times we think our why is to lose weight, but really it's about being able to get up the stairs quickly, being able to disconnect, being able to play with our children, all of those things. So thank you for those thoughtful responses because they're spot on. And really reflect what true well-being is. So that's great. My next question is, so typically I am working with new nurses who are just coming on to the night shift, but when I was talking to Brian and Cheryl, it sounds like you guys also often work 12-hour shifts, and it can be tough to have time to eat or just grab healthy food. So now I want you to type in that Q&A. What are some of your grab and go favorites so you can maybe share some of your wisdom with the rest of the group here, and we'll talk about some more on my end too. But we don't want to become victim of unhealthy items in our home to distract us, or your office, right? So there's a few favorite quotes I have or sayings is if it's in your house, it's in your mouth, right? So setting up our environment is really important. Making sure that the unhealthy foods, if you have to have them at your house, they're out of sight, out of mind, right? The power of cleaning out your pantry and doing a pantry purge is huge, right? Getting rid of those things that you don't really want, but you just keep them in there. Having a clean, organized space can help you work more effectively and tend to snack less on those unhealthy items. We know that through COVID, the average weight gain was about 29 pounds because so many people were working from home, and sometimes we just don't keep the best foods at home, right? And so the fridge was a little bit too close, and we just didn't know what we were doing, and that bi-directional relationship between our food and mood was kicking in, and as a result, we're seeing people who have really struggled with weight gain over COVID. So some grab and go healthy snacks to get you through those moments of hangriness or just hunger are really important. Brian, has anybody typed in their favorites?
Oh yeah, so granola bars,
Okay.
celery sticks, cheese and ham, mini cucumbers, grapes, mixed nuts, yogurt, hard-boiled eggs, bite-sized cheese, good quality bite-sized cheese.
Yeah. Those are amazing, you guys. Sometimes this seems so simple and you're like, why are we talking about these simple snacks, right? But they're really important because sometimes we forget about the simple stuff. And so a few things I'm always telling people is keep healthy peanut butter in your backpack or your car, and some grab and go fruit like apples, bananas, oranges, things like that you can have a little apple and peanut butter, or things that don't require refrigeration or a lot of storage, right? Keep those handy. You'll see on the photo here dates. Dates are so healthy for you. They have lots of fiber. They're kind of got that sweetness to them. So if you're trying to get away from sweets, doing a little date with some peanut butter is a game changer. Flipping them open and then putting the walnuts in there is great. Even keeping some like jerky, kale chips, dried fruit around is great too. Roasted chickpeas. If refrigeration's an issue, have a healthy pack of tuna around with some crackers, right? So that way we're just not getting this candy or things that you just are not going to give you that energy. So just a few tips there. One thing too is movement. This is tied to our physical health, right? So what keeps you motivated to move more? Typically motivation follows action. We're always like, gosh, I got to get motivated to move more. Well, people who are experiencing movement, they're more likely to move more. So to get motivated, you got to get up to move. And one thing, if you're working 12-hour shifts, you might be thinking the last thing I want to do is go to a gym and exercise, right? So let's reframe our thought about exercise and call it playful movement. So if you want to type in the Q&A some items that you like to do for playful movement, please do so. We at St. Luke's have a few ways to get employees moving, but what I encourage anyone to do is ask coworkers to go for a bike ride, go for a walk outdoors. If you're working alone all day and then you go to the gym by yourself, you start feeling really isolated. And that's not helping our mental health at all, right? So try to kill two birds with one stone. Invite friends to move with you. Find a fun workout program at home that you can do where you're still feeling part of a group, right? Like Beachbody On Demand, or Apple Health has some great ones, right? Like find a tribe of movers that you can really move along with. Let's see here. I think that was all I wanted to do on this one.
Yeah,
On this,
we have a few people.
Okay.
I'm noticing a dog theme here. So hiking,
Yes.
walking with the dog, playing with my dog, dog walking on the green belt, finding a group with similar interests to meet up.
Good. I am so glad you guys mentioned
gardening.
Gardening, yeah. So yesterday, Brian and I were talking about the power of a dog. As a health coach, for people who want to get motivated to move, I say go adopt a dog, because dogs not only make you smile every time you come home because they're so jazzed to see you, they typically need to get some exercise, right? And you can go get them out and about, and it feels like you're killing two birds with one stone. Not only are you exercising, you're getting your dog out. And a lot of times you do that outdoors, right? And that brings us to our next slide of the power of nature. So how does fresh air and sunshine make you feel? Type that in the Q&A. Let us know the feel goods you get from that, because the power of nature is been heavily researched in so many different public health avenues, even the healthcare industry. Getting 5 to 15 minutes of sunlight on your arms, hands, and face 2 to 3 times a week is enough to enjoy the vitamin D boosting benefits of the sun. Sunlight cues actually special areas in your retina, which triggers the release of serotonin. And serotonin is that feel-good hormone that we all want more of. So it really does have some solid benefits of being outdoors. Something that I'm always just blown away about is studies have found that, I have to read it off so I tell you correctly, but studies have shown patients to have a speedier recovery time just from having a window or picture of nature in their hospital room. That's striking, right? We spend so much time indoors. The statistics now are we walk 10 miles less in one day than we used to. So, and we were walking outdoors. So we really struggle with mental health and things like that. And part of it's just because we're not getting outside enough. So get your hands in the dirt. Do more of that gardening like you mentioned earlier, because it really does have powerful benefits. There, even doctors are prescribing green prescriptions. So, they've been prescribing fruits and vegetables, exercise, and now doctors are actually prescribing people to go out to parks and get in nature because it is so healing. So something to think about. Brian, did anybody type in there what nature does for them?
Calm and happy, makes me feel alive. It's a great reset potential. I sleep better after being outside. Outside is the best, makes me feel happy.
That's great. When we're outside, we gain perspective, right? We see that we're much smaller in this world than when we're home. We feel much larger, right? But when we go outside, we realize, wow, there is so much more in life, right? And it can really open our eyes and our perspective, which is really important when we're just needing that reset. I do want to talk about sleep today because this is also part of our physical health. Sleep is really that foundation for all areas of our health. And there's some great books out there called Why We Sleep, The Power of When, and it really highlights how, if weight loss, if you are wanting to lose weight, you focus on your sleep first because there are hormones that will impact your hunger the next day if you're not getting enough sleep. Sleep is also going to affect our moods, right? How many of you have not gotten enough sleep and then you've just been kind of cranky the next day, right? And really, our bedroom is only for 2 things. So I'm going to have you guys type what you think those 2 things are in the Q&A for Brian, and I'll read those off in a minute. But a few things I want to mention here is studies regarding daylight savings time. They actually noticed that heart attacks and heart incidents raise about 20% when we lose just 1 hour of sleep due to daylight savings time. And then when we gain that hour back, heart attacks and heart incidents, those types of things come back down. So that's just 1 hour, you guys. We were not meant to sleep on 5 to 6 hours every night. We really need that 7 to 8 hours to tap into those sleep stages so our brain can repair for the next day. A few pro tips for sleeping are to, not eat a super heavy meal before bed. The reason for sleep is to repair, not digest. So if you eat a large meal late at night, you're going to be digesting all night versus giving your body that energy it needs to repair. Sleeping in a cooler environment, so turning down your temperature at night is really helpful. Limiting that caffeine, not drinking it too late in the afternoon, and then exercise, of course. Another one is create a clutter-free environment in your bedroom. So if you're going to bed in a cluttered environment that's dirty and messy, you're going to wake up feeling cluttered, dirty, and messy, right? Because you're going to be waking up to that. That's the first thing you see. Whereas if you can just make this the cleanest room of your house, you're going to be able to feel a lot more organized, ready to go, because you're not just enthralled with the messiness. So try to keep that room very clean. And then I'm curious if you guys have guessed what our bed is for. There's only 2 things.
Kudos. Sleep and sex in the Q&A.
Yeah, good job. It's for sleep and sex, you guys. We don't want to be eating in bed. We don't want to be reading in bed, watching TV in bed. Take that TV out of your bedroom. It doesn't need to be there, right? We really want to associate our bed with sleeping. And so with that, just know the 2 things. That's what it's for. So, think about that next time you're watching TV in there. Brian, I'm going to ask for your help here. Would you mind reading this quote by Maya Angelou for me?
No, I wouldn't mind. Absolutely. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will not forget how you made them feel.
Yeah. So people want to, there's 3 things that people want in life, right? When we look at psychology, and people want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel valued for who they are, not just what they do. And so when we can think about how we make others feel, we tend to act much differently, right? Because we're being less selfish, and we can have a different perspective about how to engage with others. And our social health, if you're not familiar with the blue zones, I highly encourage you to Google it. There's 5 of them around the world. And this is where they've deemed the healthiest people to live in the world because they're living as centenarians, which are 100 plus years old, and they live very healthily. They don't have heart disease or diabetes or these other things. And there's different components that they found similar in these blue zones. And one of them was the social community health that they have within these communities. It's very important. There's been studies showing that having a healthy social life can increase your life expectancy up to 29%. So just know that taking some time to have lunch with a friend, or getting out and about in whatever way you can is really important. Remember somebody commented, finding support of similar-minded people. That's really helpful. Right now with COVID, it's hard to see people in group settings, but there's so many social media groups that you can become part of who have similar backgrounds, values that you can connect with. So take advantage of technology with this right now and do what you can socially, because it really does help tremendously. And I want you to just reflect on this on your own. How might this quote, when you read it, and this thought process influence your own project management work and your own self-care? So just something to keep thinking about there. I love dogs, and I love that you guys mentioned them earlier. This slide here, we want to talk about accountability partners. This tags along to your social support system, right? And I'm curious, where are some other ways? I mentioned social media, but is there some other ways that you guys are aware of that you guys can meet like-minded individuals? Type them in the Q&A so we can share wisdom amongst everyone. And keep in mind that we really are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if the 5 people you hang out with the most are working 80 hours a week, neglecting self-care, not eating healthy, have chronic health conditions, you are tremendously much more likely to be that way. Whereas if the 5 people you hang out with the most are exercising, they're taking time to have lunch with you, they're motivating you to get out and move, those things, you're much more likely to be like them. So keep in mind that people are going to inspire you or drain you. So you want to pick them wisely. And I'm not saying go out and make a bunch of new friends, but just start with, thinking about who you're hanging out with and who can keep you accountable. For that. Even as someone who works in health, I have my own health coach, own counselor to keep me accountable to my own goals, because as humans, we just need that. We need that accountability to meet our goals.
Yeah, and Mac, so some of the suggestions from the audience, meet up where you can find groups of like-minded people, participating in activities you enjoy. Another suggestion is workout class or the gym, and then PMI, Western Idaho chapter events as well.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, doing things like this and different events that PMI puts on is a fantastic way. It's super helpful. And there's so many outdoor things that we can do that allow us to socially distance, which is really nice. This is where we get to use our creativity, right? Which is fun. Emotional health. So this has been a lot more in the forefront lately, just with the pandemic and everything that people are going through, lots of changes. And on this one, I just want to make it a call out that this is part of our physical health. It has a great deal of impact on our overall well-being. And it's really our degree to which we feel positive, enthusiastic about ourselves and life. And so on this next slide here, really thinking about when we're struggling emotionally, how can we reframe our thought processes and see the good in all situations? I'm not saying you have to be Miss Positive Peppy over there. We can't just be positive. We have to think about what we really value in life. But when we're starting this vicious cycle of negative thoughts, it's great to have the tool to be able to reframe your thoughts in a way that can get you through that moment or period of time or phase. So I have an example in here. If you're constantly telling yourself, I am stupid, how could I have made that mistake? How could I be letting myself do this? Your body really takes that in internally much more powerfully than we think. So it's important to stop yourself. You're not going to be perfect, but when you start having those moments, stop yourself and say, you know what? I made a mistake. I tried, but I'm going to be smarter because of this experience. The past is practice, right? I get to learn from this and move forward a smarter human, right? So practice curiosity, set aside your judgment when these negative mindsets pop into play, and really focus on reframing your thoughts. Meditation and mindfulness practices can really help you with that reframing. So getting involved in things like Headspace or Calm, those guided meditations can really help you with that. With self-care and tagging onto the emotional component of physical health, setting healthy boundaries is really important. Self-care is not selfish, you guys. We have to prioritize ourselves first in order to help others. So I love this little tagline here. If you say no to something, what are you saying yes to? If you say no to a project, you might be feeling guilty, right? But you have to reframe that thought and say, no, I'm not taking on that project right now because I want to say yes to my family for the next month or two, or however long that project is, right? Or I need to say yes to this other project I've been working on so I can give it 100%, right? And no doesn't mean never. So if you tell somebody, no, I can't do that right now, that doesn't mean you're never going to be able, they can never reach out to you again, right? So just be really transparent with folks and say, my phase in my life right now, I'm kind of struggling. I can't take anything else on right now. People can respect that. I always like to use the analogy of a boat. Think about everybody has a different sized boat. And with social media, it can be hard because you see all these people over, doing all these things like every day. It's like they're living this like crazy productive life and they're getting so much done, and you feel like you need to do that too, right? Well, they could be in a totally different phase, right? So this could be a 30-year-old human with no children who's married, and they have more freedom, right? Their boat is like a cruise ship. They can take on a lot and they have a lot of output. Whereas some of our boats are much smaller, more like a canoe. And that could be because you're in a phase of your life. You have 4 little kiddos at home. You're married. Your husband's starting or your wife's starting a business, or your boat's much smaller. So when your boat is smaller in a different phase of life and you take on more and more responsibility, your boat starts sinking underneath the water, right? And it's not to say that you'll always be in that phase, but just recognize the phase you're in so you can set those healthy boundaries that are going to be good for you and your family, and don't feel guilty about it. This next slide here is just one, again, to get you away from that dailiness of life and think about the happiest day of your life. And I want you to think about this day and what triggered so much joy into that certain period. I'll give you a second to think about that. If you're brave and you want to share in the Q&A, I would love that. But when we think about what brings happiness to people, it's positive emotions. It's engagement, it's meaning, and achievement, right? So we got to have positive relationships in there who are keeping us accountable and motivated. We need to have meaning and purpose in our life. And what I love about this question, or this idea to think about the happiest day of your life, we can always go back to that memory. No matter what situation you're in that current day when you're struggling and you just need to find some happiness and find hope in life, I want you to think about this memory of your happiest day of your life, because nobody can take that memory away from you, right? So that is something you can go back to at any moment of the day. What is stress, and is it always bad? So it's a stressful world out there, but not all stress is bad, right? So stress, that's the stress that maybe you experienced before a big presentation at work or before a competition, right? It excites us. We stressed out, but then that stress comes back down immediately after the event. Then we have acute stress, where we experience some sort of trauma, injury, and it's right then and there, but we still are able to come back down from that stressful event into more of a relaxed state. And then we have chronic stress, which is the problem. The chronic stress is that stress that is ongoing and never ends. And the issue with this one is, when we're in chronic stress, we're in fight or flight mode, or a fight or flight state. And that is our sympathetic state, whereas our rest and digest system is in our parasympathetic state. So again, coming back to that idea of when you're really anxious, you start struggling with your digestion. It's because you're in fight or flight mode, right? And your body isn't able to digest its food like it normally would because it's not in the parasympathetic state. So that chronic stress can really get to us. And I have a slide here where we're going to talk about compassion fatigue. But that chronic stress really is what leads to compassion fatigue, where your cup is so empty, you literally have no energy or compassion or empathy to put towards others because you just don't have any. You've become hardened, you're less flexible, and it can be a real problem. Gratitude can help with this. It can help us deal with stress. Go ahead and type in that Q&A for Brian how you like to practice gratitude, because it can come in a lot of different forms. Gosh, I'm getting stuffy over here. I guess I've been too excited talking. But try to avoid practicing when you're super tired, and think about the little things. I'm going to move to this next slide, and then Brian will have you read off some ideas that people do. But one of the ideas that's been researched is the gratitude activity. Martin Seligman, he is the founder of positive psychology. And when people can reflect on 3 good things at the end of the day that happened, it can really help your level of happiness. So it doesn't have to be anything big, but before you go to sleep at night, when you're just laying in bed, think about 3 good things that happened that day. And it's amazing, even amidst the worst day you've had, that there's still 3 good things that you can find. And it could be as simple as, somebody smiled, you got somebody to smile. It could be that somebody bought you lunch. It could be that you had time to take a bubble bath, those sort of things. So think about some different gratitude practices you can do if you're just really trying to find more happiness during these stressful times. Brian, did anybody type in the chat box some gratitude practices they utilize?
A couple of things, Mac. So a simple thank you, telling someone thank you, easy to do. Keeping a gratitude journal or journaling in general, and then paying for coffee for the person behind me at Starbucks.
Yeah.
I've actually had that experience, and it's like, wow, that made my day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. We tend to remember the negative emotions or situations much more profoundly than we do the positive emotions. And there's, conflicting stats on the exact ratio. But one that you often hear is, we need to reflect on 3 positive emotions to negate or, get rid of that one negative, right? It's just like if you've done a project and you have all these great reviews and then you have one negative, you are going to focus on that one negative, right? So really thinking about how to reframe again the 3 goods that came from the day versus the one negative or a few negative things is really important. And that really helps us go from thriving to surviving. There's definitions here. I won't read them word for word, but compassion fatigue, you'll start hearing that more and more now, especially in the healthcare field. It's really this clouding of caring and concern for others, a physical, emotional, and spiritual fatigue or exhaustion that takes over a person and causes a decline in his or her ability to experience joy or to feel and care for others, right? So this is really a tough place to be. This is that burnt sunflower over there who looks dead there yet, because they have been so burnt out. They're in the survival mode. And we don't want to be there, right? And one way we can get out of this surviving mode is to really think about your purpose and meaning in life. So when I was talking about happiness, I mentioned there's this PERMA model, and part of that PERMA model is having meaning in life. And so I want you guys to type in the chat box, what excites you to get out of bed every single morning? Mark Twain said the 2 most important days of a person's life are the day he is born and the day he finds out why. So go ahead and type those in the chat box for me. And envision the possible purposeful moments in the day ahead can be really helpful too when you just don't have a lot to look forward to. And remember that sometimes it takes time to find that purpose. So sometimes working with a health coach or a counselor to help you really figure out what your purpose is in this phase of life can really be beneficial. And believe that, everybody has a purpose. So purpose begins with believing you actually do have a purpose. So Brian, I'm curious, has anybody typed in the chat box?
Yeah, Mac, I get to see my kids off to school.
Oh.
Personally, for me, I get to see my grandson.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Knowing I can go back to bed. I love that.
You know what?
Volunteering.
Volunteering, yeah, giving back. Those are wonderful. I was joking around and somebody was like, "What are you good at?" And I said, "Sleeping." I'm proud to be a good sleeper, so I love that that was brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
a couple more. Picking a fresh garden tomato, and the good that my job does.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. Yeah, thank you for sharing. When we sit back and think about it, it's always interesting because sometimes our purpose shifts depending on that phase of life we're in, and it's important to reflect on that. So it sounds like many of you have figured it out, which is great. You saw me refer to this well-being wheel earlier in the day, and there's an exercise you can do if you like, where you can rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is you're doing excellent in that area of health, and 1 is you are surviving. You're not doing well in that area at all. And so you can rate yourself and then draw X's on the wheel and connect them to see where your wheel is falling flat. So to give you an example, if you look at the emotional area of the wheel, that person rated themselves a 10 because it's on the outside of the wheel, whereas they rated themselves more like a 2 or 3 in occupational and financial health. So that's why the X is closer to the middle of the hub. And again, remember, we want to have a well-rounded wheel that can spin effectively, not one that's super flat. So it can be just a nice visual for you to glean where you maybe need to put more attention into your well-being. This is a self-care check-in that we actually use at St. Luke's for our staff, and Brian and Cheryl, I think, are going to be offering this just for you as well, because it's important for you to have some self-care check-in moments throughout the day, to breathe, to let go, be proud of the care you gave today, whether that was to your children or family or employees. Consider the 3 things that went well today. I ask your and so this will be a nice handout for you guys to refer to. This self-care plan, we use this as a handout, but you guys can just write this down on a piece of paper if you like, but setting a specific goal for yourself relating to self-care after this presentation would be ideal, right? Since you guys are in the self-care mode and we've just learned about some different strategies. So I'm going to ask that you guys write down just a simple goal for yourself of something that you can achieve within the next 2 weeks. And we like SMART goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. However, if you are sick of SMART goals, there's a few different ways you can go about it. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with James Clear and his book Atomic Habits, or the book Tiny Habits, but you can do a method called habit stacking where you connect a current habit to a new habit. So an example would be like, every morning after I get out of the shower, I am going to drink 8 ounces of water, because your overall goal is to drink more water throughout the day. So by connecting it to a new habit, you're anchoring it to something that happens every day to do that new habit. So feel free to write down a goal however you see fit and resonates with you. But set a goal and write this goal down so it's real, and then hang it up on your fridge or in your bathroom mirror so you're reminded of what that goal is each day. Now it's time for our live poll. So the live poll is going to ask you if you've done any of the following in the past week. And I'm going to have you guys just complete that live poll real quick for us. And then Ryan can help me out there.
Yeah, thanks, Mac. So for the 40-some people that are on the call, on that right-hand menu, there is a polls section. So pick one of those items and then hit submit, or let's see, what's it called? There you go. Just pick one, and then once we have a chance for everyone to do that, then I'll let Makenzie know just where we ended up at.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. While you guys fill that out, I'm going to go to the next slide and then I'll come back, because the goal of today was just to make you more of a resilient human. And resiliency is really that ability to withstand adversity, adapt, and bounce back from it and grow despite downturns, crisis, or trauma. If you're taking good care of yourself, the resiliency will grow from that. So over the past 5 decades, research points to the fact that resilience is built by attitudes, behaviors, and social supports that can be adopted and cultivated by anyone. And factors that lead to resilience include optimism, a sense of safety, and a strong social system. So I hope that you can think about the strategies we shared today in a way that will make yourself more resilient, because that's really my goal for you, is to be able to bounce back a little bit quicker and in a better way.
And so, Mac, looks like we've had just about everybody vote in the poll.
Okay.
So the top 3 with about 30%, 25, 30% each. Skipped a meal was number 1. And then have woken up still feeling tired, the last one on your list.
Okay.
And then slept fewer than 5 hours in a night. Those are the top 3. And then there were a spattering amongst all the rest of them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that feedback, everyone. Sleep can be such a struggle. So again, maybe some books to check out would be The Power of When, or Why We Sleep. Why We Sleep is a really popular sleep book that's, I think, on Audible. It's really nice. I read The Power of When, but not Why We Sleep yet. So those might be some good references to look back on. But what we've noticed is when you answer yes to a lot of these questions, it means that you're not spending enough time on yourself. So it's a good indicator that you need to prioritize your self-care a little bit more. And it shows where you could be falling off balance with that well-being wheel. So it's not to judge you in any way. This is actually really common for people to answer yes on most of these. And it just highlights, our struggles staying on top of things for us personally. So yeah, thank you for filling that poll out. I hope it was kind of a good reminder there. And that really concludes my presentation for you all. Here's my contact info if you want to reach out. I'm more than happy to help you all out in any way I can moving forward. I think the work you guys are doing is amazing, and appreciate you listening to me for the past hour, and hope that you found some good insight on prioritizing your own self-care moving forward. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Mac. And we do appreciate you spending the hour with the project management team. Yes, so for the attendees, just watch for an email from the project management email address, and you'll get a link to the recording, a link to this, the PDF that Mac shared with us today, and then also how to claim your PDU credit as well. So thanks again, everybody. We appreciate it, and we will hopefully see you at the career discussion later this month. And then in October, the Lunch and Learn is going to be focused on rescuing a troubled project. So we'll be hearing from one of our fellow project managers on that subject. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.